Welcome to Locally Sourced. I'm Armanda Famiglietti. Economic development is vital to all communities, and that's why tonight I'm very happy to have two guests. Jill Verricchio, who is the president of the Putnam County Economic Development Corporation, and Michael Oates, who's the CEO of the Hudson Valley Economic Development Corporation. Thanks for coming, Jill and Michael.
Oh,
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Jill, I'll start with you. What's the mission of Putnam County's Economic Development Corporation?
Great question.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. The mission is to bring in opportunities and businesses that will impact the community, lower taxes hopefully, and provide jobs and some vitality to each of the municipalities within the county. We are Putnam County centric.
So you mentioned bring in development to the community, but you're also concerned about balanced development, right?
Growth.
It's just not turning Putnam County into Queens.
Correct. We're not going to blacktop the entire community. Thoughtful economic development. So our office functions as the business development arm for the county. We work with the county, we work with businesses, we work with site selectors, national, regional, and we try to educate, entice, and enhance our visibility. So we ultimately will become a destination when people consider growing or looking at a map and considering where they want to put a business where they, hopefully a for-profit business, and bring in some job opportunities to the community.
But nonprofits employ people too.
That's part of their bonus. They do. They employ people and they provide, usually it's cause-based on some level, so they really provide a community service.
And Michael,
Sure.
So you're the president of the Hudson Valley. Tell us what is the Hudson Valley, because I don't really know, really.
Right.
I mean, what communities are in the Hudson Valley?
Sure. Well, there's 7 counties that make up the Hudson Valley. So on this side of the river, it's Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess County. On the other side of the river, we go from Rockland County, Orange, Ulster, and Sullivan County. So that makes up what's traditionally called the Hudson Valley region.
Okay, and so how many local economic development corporations do you work with?
Well, we work with all of them. There's economic development agencies in all 7 counties, and we partner along with Jill. Jill's a member of our board of directors. We work with all of the economic development agencies on the local level, as well as the Chamber of Commerce's and a host of stakeholders throughout the region that all have a mission to try to drive economic development.
Does each county have its own economic development corporation? Is that what they're all called, or do some counties have more than one?
Yeah, there's different models in each of the counties. In some counties, it's inside the office of the county government. Sometimes it's a partnership or an alliance that's a quasi-government public-private partnership. And so each county kind of has a different way that they operate, but our job is to act as that regional group to kind of help coordinate activities among all of the 7 counties.
Okay, so you mentioned you're on the road a lot. So you're visiting all the counties, you're visiting all of the corporations, and how specifically are you helping them?
Well, our mission is very simple. It's very similar to what Jill's mission is here in Putnam County. It is, our core mission is to attract businesses into the Hudson Valley. We want to have existing businesses here, help them retain them. So if there's a threat for them leaving the region, leaving New York State, we want to work to make sure that we provide opportunities and solutions to their problems that can allow them to remain. And we're also trying to help the existing businesses here grow. So if they're looking for new real estate, if they're looking for an opportunity to expand their businesses, we want to be in a position to support them in any way possible.
So you work with several different counties, and I'm sure that there's competition for businesses throughout the counties.
Right.
How do you handle that?
Well, I think that's a good question. The counties have understood over the recent years that if a project lands in Dutchess County, for instance, Putnam County benefits. There's not always employees there's no real borders when it comes to where the employees live and operate. So a success in one county, other counties will see benefits. Another great example of that is the casino project up in Sullivan County. Resorts World Casino. they needed to hire 1,300, 1,400 employees, and they needed to find those employees in the region. So they worked closely with Ulster County, with Orange County. The county executive in Orange County was very supportive of that project because he knew that residents in Orange County needed jobs as well, and that they could certainly easily go up to Sullivan and solve both problems at once.
Okay, all righty. So, Jill, talk about some of the achievements that the Putnam County, you've been the president for 3 years?
Just 3 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And so what have you been doing? You seem like you're a busy person.
I'm busy, and as you know, when we last spoke, been using the model to bring and educate people on topics that are inherent in land use and all the things that go into commercial industrial buildings. So every month, and I think you've attended, we bring in topics that tie exactly into what would bring folks from out of the area who could become familiar with Putnam, but those in the area that might learn something new about what they hadn't known and will impact. So we wind up bringing together and coalescing folks who have an interest, and then monthly we have a meeting, stakeholders I call it, meeting in each of the municipalities, because what happens, the process in bringing any opportunity is ultimately you're going to wind up talking to somebody at the supervisor's or mayor's office, and we like to make certain there's a face to a name, so we offer this opportunity. So we have 2 standing events that occur many times throughout the year. And then the other side is the actual daily activity of trying to respond to some of his leads and requests for opportunities, and then navigate, because once we get an opportunity, there's a lot of things that could happen. And as we know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. So then we bring in others, the IDA from Putnam.
IDA is
the Industrial Development Agency that might offer an inducement for companies that would like to save a little bit.
So is that more manufacturing than retail?
It used to be manufacturing solely. But what we do is we bring in so that the companies coming in have options. They know about the New York Department of Labor and what they'll do for job analysis. They know that people who are considered disabled but not handicapped might be an opportunity for a worksite experience. So we try to bring together solutions to the agent that's representing that organization. We have done, for instance, even small businesses. There's 2 or 3, like Misto Mead, that's manufacturing a wine beverage out of Kent.
Misto Mead.
MEAD, right. Well, great, they're manufacturing, but how can we introduce him to other distributors that could take his product and get it around? Same thing with the jammery. Eleanor's Best, she's making jams. She was involved with the HVEDC in the program that they offered, teaching people how to be better at what they were doing, as well as cast spirits. And we're able to link them, hook them through an initiative through New York State called Global New York. So we're supporting people who are here to make certain they can stay here. As well, we've been talking up the Accelerator, which is another avenue by which we can bring in and identify Putnam as being on the map, but globally. We're looking at it, launching it next March, and what it'll do, we'll be recruiting globally countries around the world that have businesses that have been around for 3 years and would like to have a presence here in the county. It's on the western side. And what we'll do is provide a space, they call them pods, and have them hopefully grow their business enough so when they mature and they need space and employees, Putnam has right of first refusal. So, you know, the activity of doing some other things, it's all happening at the same time, so I'm busy enough, but it's exciting, and, you know, try to be responsive.
You mentioned a couple of things that I want to follow up on. One, definitely what's happening with the Accelerator.
Okay.
And definitely what's happening with giving local businesses and possible local businesses additional support and training on how to succeed. And then the last thing is you mentioned global business and attracting global companies. And there's an example of that, right? One of your accomplishments is a distillery that's going to be coming. Is that a done deal, the distillery that's coming to Carmel?
Done deal. We're anticipating after they repurpose the building in 15 to 18 months, it will be opening their doors and moving forward.
So that's pretty.
And you're going to be looking for 60 to 100 employees, and it's a positive for sure. And it is international. It is global. It'll put this as a headquarters in the United States. So it's going to require the other things that we know are happening. We have a hotel that's coming up, and it's the Comfort Inn.
Really?
over in the town of the Southeast, and that's going to have 57 keys, and they're going to need
what is that? 57
rooms.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and they're going to need employees, of course. Every opportunity swings back to the workforce, and in the workforce training side, there are businesses. For instance, there's an association that now has an apprenticeship program available for manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. We have apprenticeship programs in the building trades. You know about the laborers and you know about the carpenters. They also have culinary arts. We have a healthcare model. So we have a red carpet program, if you will, that addresses a workforce need. You can bring the employers, but if you don't have employees, you're going to run into a bit of a snag. So we're working diligently to make certain everybody tees up at the same time, so when they need employees, they're there.
So we have a very low unemployment rate
Everybody
right
does.
now. Is that a problem? Because to get
Did you want to address that?
Sure. Well,
is it a problem, Michael?
It's not a problem, but it's a concern. It's a good.
It's a good challenge.
It's a challenge. For a couple of reasons. One is that which is great that people are employed. We're in the Hudson Valley roughly at 3.5% unemployment rate, which is great. The challenge is finding workers for the businesses that are looking to expand. So we're working on a lot of workforce development related issues to try to make sure that we have that workforce that can allow those companies to expand. One of the issues that we're also working on or focusing on is that while the unemployment level is at 3.5%, there's a segment of the population in the Hudson Valley that is looking at a 60 to 70% unemployment rate, which is the disabled community. So we're working very hard and closely with a lot of the organizations, Abilities First, Access, Juanio, organizations throughout the region that have that help place disabled individuals into companies. So we have a lot of employers who are looking for or struggling to find employers, and we have a population that has just an unacceptable level of unemployment. So we want to make sure that we can connect those people in the disabled community to the companies that are looking for employees.
Right, and we here are sensitive to the Putnam ARC, you're familiar with ARC? They, because of the state mandate, they're going to be closing all the sheltered workshops in a few years. We're ahead of the curve with them. We're working with them to identify some options in terms of industries that might be compatible, because what ultimately happens when you're working through a sheltered workshop is the impact on the businesses that have been using their services will ultimately need to be retooled a bit or repositioned in order to account for that function within the manufacturing.
So tell me, what is a sheltered workshop and why are they being closed?
I think, was it the governor that decided to do that? Right. The shelter workshop historically came from when people were disabled and believed that they needed to be sheltered in the way in which they were given job opportunities. If you're a family member and your son or daughter is limited, you don't want them to be in a work environment that's terribly difficult to endure. So they created shelter workshops to really address how can we give them meaningful activities and also pay them. So what they would traditionally do, instead of being paid $10, $15 a minimum wage, they would say, you, the normal person, here's the project, this is what you need to assemble within a certain period of time. So you would do the assessment, figure it out, okay, at that rate, that's minimum wage. Then you give it to the person who's not up to speed, if you will, in terms of their capacity, and whatever percentage, then they built their wages based on the percentage of what was considered the norm. That, in my mind, that was what was done historically. So if you fast forward, they've become a very big resource for many businesses.
Right.
And
sort of
now,
like envelopes.
well, pick, pack, and ship, or they small parts assembly, the component that people at the business might not want to do, or it doesn't pay for them to hire somebody to do it when they can get it done for a certain fee. So.
And there's great support for the disabled community to allow to get help when they get those jobs in either light manufacturing and distribution, hospitality, food and beverage. There's a whole host of industries that are growing within the Hudson Valley that are in desperate need of finding skilled workers, and we have them. And we just want to shed a light on that stat because you know when we first found out about it, it's it's a tragedy because when you're looking at 60 to 70% of unemployment level, when we're all patting ourselves on the back, frankly, saying we only have a 3.5% unemployment, it's not for everybody. So we want to make sure that at least companies that are seeking workers, that there are options for everybody throughout the Hudson Valley.
Okay. And you didn't mention, why are these sheltered workshops closing?
I thought
and what's coming to replace them?
I thought it was the governor teeing it up to be at above minimum wage. I think that was more of the politics.
I'm not sure exactly the history in terms of why that has changed.
So people are complaining that the people in the sheltered workshops are not being paid minimum wage.
I'm not sure if that's...
You can check that out as a fact. I don't know for sure. It might be, I'm not sure, but not to misrepresent
it. The issue more
it.
is that we have companies in the region that are in need of employees. And we have an entire population that wants to work and is capable of working. We just want to bring them together. A lot of agencies obviously focus on the sheltered workspaces and kind of how that operates. Our job as economic development folks is really just to make those connections. Really bring those agencies together with the businesses that are seeking and in need of help.
Have you been successful doing that?
Yeah, I think we have. We have a company that we brought to the Orange County Business Accelerator in New Windsor, a company that was manufacturing in China toothbrushes, organic bamboo toothbrushes. We brought the company back from producing in China, set up them in the Orange County Business Accelerator, which was a great partnership. The accelerator is helping to grow the business. Now they're selling nationally through Whole Foods, but they needed a workforce. They needed help packing and doing light manufacturing of the toothbrushes. So we partnered with Abilities First, which is a wonderful organization, and that partnership allowed the company to bring back the manufacturing, be in a position to grow and ramp up while having a qualified workforce that can help them. So it was a win-win for everybody.
What about distribution centers? That's got to be the future now that retail is moving mostly to online, and a lot of retail businesses are closing, large and small. I mean, Sears and Kmart are in our community are closing. There was a proposal for a distribution center. Tell me about that, Jill.
Still is there.
Is it moving along, or is it? I know there was some resistance from kind of a NIMBY perspective.
I think there's always a concern when a project lands in a community or is traffic patterns and the like. I think what we tend to do is we look at the economic impact. The local residents will obviously decide how it impacts them, in terms of traffic patterns and the like. And that's part of the process.
Is that the big issue with the Brewster?
Well, I think the public has a right, and there's a role for them to make their concerns heard, and then I think that process tends to work out very well, because what happens is that companies, in order to get their approvals, will have to take into the consideration the local community and make adjustments to their plans accordingly in order to get through the approval process.
Okay, so there's a negotiation process.
I think that's I think that's what the beauty of that system is. What we tend to look at is the economic impact. When you talk about distribution centers, that's true. Orange County is traditionally been a very strong location for distribution centers, and they've seen a kind of an increase over the years. Great road infrastructure, which is the critical component that
and the thruway.
Okay. Which is the critical component that the distribution centers are looking for. Distribution centers tend to cluster in similar areas, so when a county tends to get a kind of a critical mass of them, it attracts other distribution centers into the region, and I think that's what we've seen specifically in Orange County, in the last 5 or 10 years, and I think that growth will continue.
Okay, so tell me about what's happening in Brewster. Where are we with that?
You mean the town of Southeast?
Oh, I'm sorry, town of Southeast. I should know better.
Well, the process, my understanding is that the person that owned all that property originally wanted it for housing, and then decided, given the trend, that it would be more suited for distribution, and has made a proposal. And as you know, there's been a lot of information sharing, and some of it's more clear. But they're working with the town to find out how best to address, if they could go forward, what it could look like. But much of this process is, we facilitate, we do what we can, but the process has a life of its own. And who steps up, how they do it, there's many things that play into it, be it rules, regulations, finance. So what will be, we step back and do what we can, but at the end of the day, it's the community that makes the decision whether or not they're going to embrace this type of opportunity.
Okay. Were either of you involved in
The public hearing?
recruiting the distribution center to come in?
Well, there's a developer whose plan it is to develop it into a distribution center. So we will work with, if the approvals come in place, we will work to help market the site to companies that will hopefully come and take space.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought there was already a company in place that was ready to go.
I think they have some plans, certainly, and any good developer will have outreach to businesses to kind of make that process. But I don't think, unless Jill, differently, I don't think there's any announcements yet.
Yeah, no, they're waiting.
Well, thanks for clarifying that, because I know it's been in the news around here.
Yeah.
So when you are doing your job and you're attracting businesses, how do you sell this region? Tell me about what.
Well, you sell the region. You've got, and I tell them, not all counties are created equal. He'll hear me say that. Putnam County, we're Putnam County centric, so we have a very unique location footprint, lots of assets, and so we put our best foot forward when it comes to opportunities. We work closely with the brokers, people who own property, and we try to identify how to best match what's needed. And there's lots of reports, lots of data, lots of information. So we try to market, educate, and entice these outside interested parties to have them take what we have and look at it seriously. And of course, he brings them to everybody.
Well, I think one of the unique things that the Hudson Valley has to offer in New York State is we have a tremendous workforce, very highly skilled workforce. We have great academic institutions in the region. Great example is Marist, which just recently announced that they're creating a medical college, up in Poughkeepsie, which will be a phenomenal development not only for Dutchess County but for the entire Hudson Valley, overall. We also help to market the infrastructure that the region has. We talked a little bit about Orange County and the roads. All of those come into play when companies are determining where they're going to locate.
So is that basically what they're looking for? Educated workforce and infrastructure.
They need the real estate. They need to make sure that the real estate makes sense for them.
Not sure I know.
Address. An address, the location.
The location, the buildings, or the land that they're going to build in.
Okay.
So that it
Would
has.
they rather revamp an existing building or start from scratch?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Some companies like to look at repositioning.
Because I know the distillery is
repurposing,
right.
Which is great. A lot less rubble in the landfills, and we keep a fairly historic building here.
Yeah, and
I
time.
would say that project is...
And time, right.
Right, and I think a project like the distillery ties into what Hudson Valley EDC has been doing throughout the region, which is really pushing the food and beverage industry cluster. We work on a cluster development strategy where we try to bring businesses together and bring focus to say this is where these industries should take hold. The governor has embraced that over his time in office, where he's really focused on food and beverage, craft spirits, craft distilleries. The Hudson Valley region has seen the largest increase, or the biggest percentage increase in the state of New York over the last number of years as it relates to distilleries, breweries, and wineries and cideries. So having an international distillery take hold here in Putnam County, which is phenomenal, really ties into that overall message of that expansion and explosion of those businesses throughout the region.
So we're going to be like the Napa Valley of gin and vodka?
Well, I think the Napa Valley is trying to be a little bit like the Hudson Valley. The Hudson Valley is really the breadbasket and has really set the trends for food nationally for many years. Right. While the Napa Valley is concentrated solely or mostly on wineries, The Hudson Valley has wineries, we have distilleries, we also have artisan food companies. So we have a more balanced approach, and we certainly have great access into New York City marketplace.
Right, and that also feeds into tourism, right? I mean, we want to get people
All
on
linked.
that, on those trains and come on up here and
bike and hike.
And that's part of our interest in promoting the food and beverage cluster. You know, when you look at it, it's not just food and beverage companies. It's agriculture, it's hospitality, it's tourism, and how they're all related. So a distillery opening up will not only produce their products, they'll have a tourism component to it. People want to see how these products are made. They want to kind of experience it.
And
yeah, so I think we can see a lot of that, over the coming years.
Okay, and what about challenges? Now, I've heard that people who leave New York State leave it because the weather's so bad. Have you heard that?
Well, it's pretty bad today, so it might be
it is
cold
today. So what about that? What about the challenges that impede your being able to recruit?
Well, we have the obvious high taxes. It's very expensive to do business here in New York, but we have.
And it's expensive to live here.
It's expensive to live
at
here.
Least in
Those
Putnam
are
County.
all common, issues that face businesses here. But we also have great access into New York City. We have, like we talked about, that highly skilled workforce. We have great academic institutions. We have all of the ingredients that can help offset some of those challenges. We work with companies to try to get them incentives to make it to kind of level the playing field. And
like tax breaks and
tax breaks
like
or grants or things that allow companies to be in a position to grow. A lot of people say, well, why do we need those tax breaks, or why do we need those incentives to get these companies? Isn't that corporate welfare? And the reality, it's yes, there's a percentage of that, but we don't work in a vacuum. Meaning that other states have these programs in place, and if we simply don't have them,
they're
the
going to go
companies will
elsewhere.
go to where they are. So we have to make sure that we balance, the needs of the taxpayers with creating sound economic policy, but it allows us to be competitive with other regions of the state.
And for Putnam specific, the supervisors I know and the mayors are very pro-development, again, but careful, smart, thoughtful economic development, and they are willing to pick up and play, which is very important when we bring in an opportunity, because it is a challenge. When you say, gee, it's going to take X number of months, what can we do to expedite it? So we're all about working to make it happen a little sooner.
Okay. Well, we're out of time, and that's a great way to end the program. And thank you both so much for taking time from your very, very busy schedules, and coming out in the rain, and joining us. And thanks to our crew who come all the time, and the folks who watch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.